across the country, Gioia, Massa, and Trent Smith.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to our second episode of NASA STEM Stars, where students all across the country can engage and interact with scientists and innovators from NASA and ask any question you like. And we are here today with our Veggie team from the Kennedy Space Center. My name is Jen Hudgens, an education specialist, and I'm here to guide you through today's journey with our scientists from the Veggie project. I want to let you know that we are going to meet the team today, and we're going to learn about the mission that they're working on, and then you'll have a chance to ask your questions to our team. And I'm going to actually assign you a mission where you can share with us on social media at hashtag NASA Next Gen STEM. So if you have any questions while today's session is going on, we have a chat window open for you there on YouTube. And just type in your question in the chat box, and I'll be sure to ask our scientists your questions, and you'll be able to hear and interact with them. So let me introduce you to our team. We have a project at the Kennedy Space Center. It's called Plants in Space, and it's actually an acronym, Veggie, which I'm sure you're familiar with that word, shortened for vegetable, but it's actually an acronym. We have Gioia Massa. She's a plant scientist with us at the Kennedy Space Center. And Trent Smith is the project manager for the Veggies project. So I'm going to turn it over to them and let them introduce you to themselves, tell you a bit about their backgrounds, how they got to NASA, their education, and what their project is all about. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Gioia. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks, Jen. It's a pleasure to be here today. So I'm glad to talk with you about my journey. Can't see, is the slide up? There we go. Yeah, so we're going to talk with you about our research on plants in space, and this is part of our space crop production group at Kennedy Space Center. So if we go to the next slide. So my background is that I got an undergraduate degree in plant science from Cornell University and a PhD in plant biology with a minor in geosciences from Penn State. And I'm a life sciences project scientist at Kennedy Space Center. Some of my hobbies include reading, walking, and being in nature, gardening, taking care of plants. So we go to the next slide. It kind of highlights my journey. So I was born in South Florida and was fortunate enough to grow up about an hour or so from where we're at on the Space Coast in Central Florida in DeLand. And I was in the FFA organization when I was in junior high school and high school, which is where I learned about the research for plants in space and where I really fell in love with this area. That was when I decided that this is what I wanted to do with my life. So from there, I went to Cornell University, studied plant science all the way up in Ithaca, New York. And I had a really exciting opportunity to do a semester abroad over at the University of Tasmania in Australia. So that was that detour, where I also got to study some really cool plants. Then I went to Penn State University for my PhD. And from there, I went to Purdue University, where I did what's called postdoctoral research, where I was actually part of a NASA center that was studying plants for human life support. My PhD was more fundamental, where I looked at how plants sense and respond to gravity. So I was able to get both ends of the spectrum. And from there, I came to Kennedy Space Center, and I was a postdoctoral researcher here before I was fortunate enough to be hired by NASA to do what I've always wanted to do. So now we'll start.
What kind of books do you like to read? You said you like to read. What do you like to read?
I read a lot of fiction. I'll read everything from science fiction and fantasy, which actually my husband teaches at a local university, to mystery novels, spy novels, biographies, histories as well. So yeah, I really love to read all different things.
That's cool. In Tasmania, Australia, right? So I
Yeah,
know the Tasmania devil, right? Everybody's heard about those. Are there any
right.
other animals that fascinated you while you were down there besides the plants?
Well, there were wombats, wallabies and kangaroos and platypuses. So, it's hard to get any weirder or cooler than that. Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks for coming today, Gioia. We really enjoy having you. All
Thank
right,
you.
Trent, why don't you tell us about a little bit about your journey and background?
Yeah. So Joy is like a really good, story about, this is what I want to do, and she never gave up. And where I'm more of a, just being lucky and doing, things that I love. So um, I went to school. Actually, I don't know if the slide's up, but I went to a lot of schools. And I went to a lot of schools, but I finally ended up in Florida, and I got a chemistry degree at Florida Institute of Technology. I was fortunate enough to get into the NASA. It was the co-op program. It's now Pathways. As a graduate student, I got a master's degree in chemistry when I was there, and I was working at NASA at the time as a co-op or a Pathways intern. And so I was able to do research at university and research at NASA and combine it together for a thesis. But I started at Houston Community College. I went to University of Houston. I moved to California. I worked and surfed and played hockey and in my 20s. It's a great time to be in Southern California, doing those things. But I went back to school. I went to Rio Hondo, Loyola Marymount, and then I had those two. I had Florida Tech and Loyola Marymount compete for financial aid because I needed money and I needed help with school. And so, Florida Tech gave me a little better package, and I packed up my fiance and my dog and my cats and trucked across the country and did it. So, and then I got to NASA, and I got to make new materials and break them and zap them with electricity and then make them better. I mean, what a cool job, right? It's like being 8. And, you're building stuff and breaking it. And then I had so much fun, and I got tapped on the shoulder, and I had an opportunity to go learn something new. And I think it's because I'm always looking to learn. I really like being part of a team, and part of being a team is listening and doing what needs to be done. And I got a chance to go work on Ares 1X and the VAB. This was the test rocket. And so I was on the floor of the VAB, and we're building this test rocket through the whole year. And I'm a chemist. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a process engineer. I'm not an ops person. I'm a chemist. But I sat there, I listened, and I figured out what the job was, and I did it. And I had just multiple opportunities after this. I mean, I went up to the Capitol Hill, and I was a technical advisor to the Senate. I know nothing on space policy, but I can learn, and I know technical things, and I knew NASA, so that was what was helpful. And I came back, and I was the commercial crew strategic communications manager, a chemist. So I guess my point is really with work ethic, with love of learning and being curious, and having integrity, you can go do any job. And and after that, I got to come over to the ISS, Life Sciences Research Group, and be part of Veggies. And what a tremendous opportunity. I mean, we're growing space plants, right? When we grow plants on the moon and all the way to Mars, it all comes back to what we're doing now and what we did before. So, really to be a part of this journey when we're going to grow plants on different bodies is what a humbling and tremendously, I don't know. I don't even know. I'm speechless at this point. What a cool job, I'll just say.
So, Trent, you started out in California, the furthest away you could be from the Kennedy Space Center, right? So, did you ever think you were going to work for NASA, or was that a goal of yours when you were younger, like in high school?
I didn't have any goals. I just knew I liked technical things. When I was at Loyola Marymount, I was part of the research experience for undergraduates, and that's run by the National Institute of Science, I think. I can't remember. I think it is. At any rate, it was really shaped me because at that time I realized I thought we knew a lot of the answers, but then I realized what research is. You're going to go design an experiment. You're going to go learn something about something that no one knows anything about. And for that time period, you're going to know something that no one else does until you publish what you learned. And for me, that was a light bulb moment where that's how we advance scientific knowledge and engineering knowledge. And I wanted to be a part of that. And so after that, I was sold. So I went and got a technical degree. NASA was never on the radar. It was I was lucky, So there's an old saying that sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Maybe I'm evidence of that. But, Joy has been this persistent. I want to do this since 12, and she's doing it. Me, I'm kind of the opposite, where I'm a non-traditional student, but having a good attitude, loving to learn, doing a good job, showing up and getting it done, and whatever needs to be done, and working for the team. I think that's really an important thing that I think a lot of students can hold on to, even if they're not the greatest student to start with.
Well, I think both of your backgrounds are very encouraging to students because I know both of you well, and I know that you're both hard workers, and I think that's the platform or the basement that you both started from. So we encourage students to be hard workers, and you can do whatever you want to accomplish, right? So Gioia, do you want to share with us a little bit about your project, Veggie, and tell us what it's about?
Yeah, I'll start and then Trent will take over. So if we want to go to the first slide, we'll start talking about why we want to grow plants in space. First of all, it's really for the food. If you look at that photo, that's astronaut Mike Hopkins, who's going to be going back to the space station soon. And that's a Thanksgiving dinner on space station. So that's a pretty fancy meal. And you can see all the food's individually packaged. A lot of it's either freeze-dried or thermostabilized in some way. And the astronauts will generally add water. They can add cold water or warm water, and they can put things in a food warmer. But that's pretty much it. That's the standard for food. And so the addition of fresh vegetables, fresh produce to that diet can be really beneficial from, a morale standpoint, and that goes to the next point, the psychological well-being, but it can also be really important for nutrition and for variety and flavor. And as we go farther and stay longer, the food, that packaged food, the quality and the vitamins, the nutritional quality can degrade. So we're looking at growing plants to supplement that packaged diet to make sure that the astronauts stay healthy. And the psychological well-being is really important as well. When you're living far away from Earth in this stressful environment where you can't go outside without a spacesuit, it might be really, really important to have that little piece of Earth to connect you. You can see the plants here behind me. A lot of us have house plants. We have yards, we have gardens. And when you're in space, you may not have any green growing things. So having those green growing things, I think, would be really, really beneficial. And so we're trying to collect data on that right now. And then at the same time that plants are producing food, they're also recycling the atmosphere, revitalizing that atmosphere through the process of photosynthesis. They take up the carbon dioxide we breathe out, and they emit oxygen that we can breathe in. And they're taking up water, and they give off pure water vapor through their leaves. And that could be recondensed and used for life support. So there's a lot of benefits for growing plants. So if we go to the next slide, that is kind of a depiction of what an artist thought a lunar base might look like someday, and here you can see densely packed layers of plants kind of in the bottom left under that dome. They're growing under electric lights, and they're growing in layers, and they're inside the habitat in the protected structure where the astronauts are living and working and exercising. So this is probably how plants might someday be grown on a moon base.